be rejected. There were responses that had to be given to these people. You know, who's going to give them the responses? Because obviously with the Prophet ﷺ, although he said enough, and the Quran gives us sufficient universal rulings that could be applied to any specific situation to give us a ruling, but there weren't specific rulings, you know, mentioned for every new issue that would occur. You know, it just couldn't be the case where the Prophet ﷺ would be able to. It didn't happen as such that the ahadith include everything in a specific way. For example, cloning, to take a simple example of recent times, right? Another example, if I give you another example, you know, can a man, you know, one of these bodybuilders that like to oil their body, right, and their chest and so on, and they've got a hairy chest and they want to shave the hair of their chest to look more feminine or for whatever reason, right? Can a man who wants to shave bodily hair, not the hair that's already mentioned that needs to be removed, but we're talking about hair from the arms, for example, hair on the chest, hair on the back, can you remove that or not? Look in the Quran, you won't find any specific ruling about that. In fact, the Quran contains very few specific rulings. It contains many general maxims. It contains many general universal principles, all right, that are then expounded through some of the ahadith. Now, even if you look at the ahadith, I think you'd be very hard-pressed to actually come up with a direct ruling on can a man of today shave his chest after, you know, going to the gym or whatever it is. Where are you going to get this ruling from? Somebody's going to have to sit down and look at all of the other ahadith that are related to this. You know, all of the sources of the Sharia through the ijma' and other sources, to look at something similar, if something similar has been legislated upon, and then to try to determine a ruling for this particular thing. Now obviously every jurist that would sit and try to perform this endeavor to come up with the ruling for, you know, the removal of hair from the chest, if I want to take that example, they may come up with different ideas. Some will say, no, it's not permissible. Some will say, it will be permissible. Some may say, it's only permissible under this circumstance and not under that circumstance. You know, there's a very rich variation that you'll get. Yeah, if the brothers can move forward to make some room, inshallah, for the brothers who are coming in. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, another very simple example. I'll give you another very simple example. When it came to the time of the Imams, what happened is, like, during the time of the Sahaba, on one Jumu'ah, during one Jumu'ah prayer, a Sahabi came in. And the khutbah had already begun. The Prophet ﷺ had already begun to deliver his khutbah and his sermon. And when this Sahabi came in, the Prophet ﷺ said, stand up and pray. Make your, you know, your sunnah, nafil prayers, whatever it was, you know, there's difference of opinion whether it's a sunnah he's talking about, whether it's a tahiyyatul masjid or whatever it is. Stand up and pray. So he stood up and he prayed. Now, some of the imams, they look at this and say, the reason why he stood and prayed is because he was a poor person. And the Prophet ﷺ, after that prayer, actually encouraged people to spend on him, to contribute, to donate to him. Because he was a very poor person, very disabled state. His clothing were not. Sulaik al-Ghatafani, his name was. Sulaik al-Ghatafani, right? That was his name. Because there are other ahadith which, when you look at, they will tell you that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged people to spend. In fact, one version, one narration of this hadith also mentions that when the Prophet ﷺ told the person to pray, the Prophet ﷺ himself stopped his khutbah, right? He paused it until he finished. Now, from all of this we understand that there was a reason why he told him to pray. Because not in any other time do we find that the Prophet ﷺ told people to pray while in the sermon. Because the whole idea of a sermon is that you listen. Why would the Prophet ﷺ be speaking if he's telling people to pray at the same time? It's like telling people to ignore him. Because in salat, you need concentration. Not everybody can do two things at once. And you're supposed to be talking to Allah and you're intimate, discoursive with Allah in your salat. So obviously it doesn't sound right. But here he told this person for a particular reason. So some imams have said that there is no sunnah prayer because the hadith is clear. إِذَا خَرَجَ الْإِمَامِ فَلَا صَلَاةَ وَلَا كَلَامٍ. As soon as the imam appears and emerges, then there's no salat you can do, and neither is there any discourse or any speaking after that. Right? And that would supersede all of these other situations where we would look at these other situations and say it was for a particular purpose. But there are some imams and some jurists who've looked at this and said, no, what the Prophet ﷺ is saying here is that these 2 rakats are so important that even when the khutbah is on, you can stand up and quickly do those 2 rakats. And that's why for the Shafi'is, for instance, if a person comes very late for khutbah, and the khutbah is about to end, and he doesn't reckon that he will be able to make his 2 rak'ats before the imam finishes the khutbah and begin the prayer, then he should actually just stand and wait. And this was actually very irritating to me in the beginning, because while I was an imam in America, you had, mashallah, cosmopolitan of people in terms of different manahij, different madhabs, and so on and so forth. And there'd be a few individuals that come late, which was irritating enough, and then they would stand at the back, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? I didn't say anything to them, but then eventually when I looked into the Shafi'i school, and this is, it seems they hail from the Shafi'i school, the idea is that if you come too late and you don't have enough time for Tahiyatul Masjid, then you stay standing until the imam finishes, because it's going to finish in a few seconds, a minute or so, and then you join the prayer standing up of the Jumu'ah prayer. Because the hukm, even in the Hanafi school, is that if you come in and you join a fard prayer, right, and you had an intention to make Tahiyatul Masjid, and according to some, even if you didn't, then your Tahiyatul Masjid is incorporated, because Tahiyatul Masjid means greeting the Masjid. You're making a fard prayer, you're greeting the Masjid anyway, right? So it's kind of very interesting the way people looked, the jurists looked at different, the similar situation, but in different ways. And that's what they were told to do. So we can't say you are wrong in what you did. And we can't say to the other imam that you are wrong in what you did. But what we can say is that this one is correct according to Allah. Or in my opinion is correct according to Allah. Because we don't really know what is correct according to Allah. Because Allah doesn't reveal this book and say yes, and He puts a tick mark, or, He doesn't do that. I'll get into that a bit later. I'll expound on that a bit more later. You see, I was only given an hour. That's why we have Asr prayer. So I'm trying to cover a lot of ground. So it may seem a bit like a roller coaster ride if you're used to those, right? So hopefully it's not passing over your head. Hopefully, inshallah, you're understanding something. Are you guys understanding something? Now what happens is, there's a need to look at the corpus of hadith, the sunnah, the actions of the people of Medina, the actions of the Sahaba, and exactly what the Sahaba also narrated to others, and then obviously the Quran is the primary source. The time of Umar radiallahu anh, he, on many issues that were very prominently disagreed upon, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did not have the time. He didn't have the time to deal with these issues, because in his 2 years and certain number of months khilafah that he had, his entire focus went into quelling the rebellion, and all of these apostates and others who challenged certain aspects of Islam and so on and so forth. So his entire 2 years and a half or so went into that. Umar radiallahu anhu, he inherited a very calm kind of system, and then after that he focused on a number of other things, both the expansion of Islam into other areas, and also at home to look at the prominent issues that were of differences of opinion among the Sahaba. What he did is he kind of would form a little committee, and he would determine among them, what exactly the Prophet ﷺ had said. If it was a matter that related to women, for example, he would have Aisha radiallahu anha consulted about that, because Aisha radiallahu anha was a faqihah, she was a jurist in her own right. She was very close to the Prophet ﷺ, also a very prolific narrator of ahadith, and thus they managed to reach a consensus. Much ijma'. Some would argue that a lot of the ijma' was reached. The consensus was reached at his time. Now obviously then Uthman radiallahu anhu's time comes, and eventually there's a lot of chaos eventually during that time. But what's happening now around the Muslim Ummah is that there are different ulama in Medina, in Kufa, in Basra, in Makkah, Mukarramah, and other places that are teaching and that are legislating, and people are following them. So for example, what you had, just to give you a few names, because I think we need to mention these names so that, they become familiar to us. They are our heritage, right? So what you had, for example, is that among the Sahaba, who are the great fuqaha, who are the great jurists, the muftis among the Sahaba, right? Obviously the 4 khulafa. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali radiallahu anhum. You had Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. I mean, you would put him at a very high position. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, another one. Another one was Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. Ubay ibn Ka'b. And then you had Zayd ibn Thabit. I mean, these are some of the names that really stand out as being jurists among